What's up, everyone? I'm going to break down some of the most popular AI stocks on the market right now. If you want to skip around the video, totally feel free. I'm going to be covering today C3 AI, ticker AI, and then SOUN, and then BBAI, Big Bear AI. So I'm going to be covering three stocks. I'm going to go over the fundamentals of each, see how they stack up to the peers, and I'll also look at the chart very quickly to give a short-term price prediction. So with that being said, I'll jump into the video. So we are seeing that AI has come down about 12% today. We get earnings after the bell today, so that will be pretty interesting. But I just wanted to go over a couple of the key metrics for AI, and I think this is a great representation of how the stock stacks up to peers. So basically, Seeking Alpha here will give a factor grade for a stock as it compares to peers. So relative to peers, AI has a valuation grade of D, very good growth grade, and revisions of A, meaning that Wall Street is revising expectations for earnings and revenue higher, and I'll go into each. So for C3 AI, when you look at the financials, when you look at the valuation, obviously the company doesn't make money yet, so you really can't, grade it on too many things here. Although you can look at enterprise value to sales, and you can see that's about 15 for AI, and the sector median is 2.7. So you're seeing a pretty wide divergence there. But price to book doesn't look too bad. You're seeing about 3 for price to book as a sector median, and then for AI, it's about 5.2. So nothing crazy notable there. But when we look at growth, this is where it gets very good. So year over year growth for C3 AI is 14%, with the sector median being about 12%. And then when you look at the forward looking growth, which just takes the next 12 months, it's 20% compared to 9.8% of the sector median. So obviously, revenue growth seems to be growing here, and that's not shocking, right? You see everything that's going on in the AI space. And capex growth obviously is jumping as more investments are being made. So good sign there. AI growth, A plus rating. So good to see there for the company. And when we look at revisions, so we're seeing upward revisions only. Literally, 12 revisions have been made in the past 3 months for AI, and they have all been upward. So definitely pretty strong momentum there. So I think that's worth, kind of keeping an eye on. Obviously, Wall Street revisions do play a big factor in how, investors, institutions invest. So it definitely makes sense to keep an eye on it. And, having 22 upward revisions, 12 for EPS, 10 for revenue, is a great sign, and it shows that Wall Street has a very positive view on the stock. But with that being said, let's take a look at the chart. So AI has had the first mover advantage for sure. Gonna delete this quickly. As you can see, the stock has traded since 2020, and actually before all this AI craziness even took place, the stock was at $180. So what does that tell me? That tells me that this stock has way more room to move to the upside, and it's reported earnings for 10 earnings reports in a row where the stock has beat expectations. That's a great sign. That earns trust with Wall Street, right? I bet that plays into the fact that more people who actually write research on Wall Street are moving their expectations higher. That definitely contributes to that. It builds trust with those folks. But when we look at the stock and we try to kind of predict where it's moving based on technicals, so the stock trades above all daily moving averages, which really tells me that momentum is extremely strong. So we also are above this $24 level, which is where shares had topped out back in August. So above a major resistance level, now it's a support level. And we also traded above the highs back in April around $33. So this kind of tells me that we likely, and we also moved down to this level and moved higher today. This tells me that likely, we will see, and this might have been a pre-market move, we will likely see this $35 level act as support over the next couple of days. Obviously, earnings could, throw this around. But I do believe, if we come down to this $35 level, that might be a good buying zone. Another one would be, kind of around this $30 level, which is basically where shares had topped out in February and March. So I believe, if we can get down to this $35 zone, AI is a pretty good buy in that area. That's my personal opinion, not financial advice, of course. So with that being said, I'll move on to Sound. SoundHound AI. So stock's down today, obviously, kind of moving in sympathy with AI. But let's look at some of those factors we spoke about with AI. As you can see, factor grades basically just puts the stock relative to peers. Valuation D plus, growth C, momentum B, and revisions are a C plus. So let's look at valuations. And if you remember, C3 AI was F, so D plus not too bad. So EV to sales about 15, similar to C3 AI. And then price to sales about 15, comparing to the sector median of 2. Obviously, the valuation is way higher based on the growth, which I'll jump into right now. So revenue growth year over year for Sound is 54%, and the sector median is only 11%. So that tells you that there's a pretty big, growth difference when you look at this stock relative to peers. So interesting to see that that's the only metric we're getting here. So I will move on, but let's look at the revisions. So different story here from C3 AI for sure. We're seeing about a 1-to-1 revisions to down revisions to up revisions. So we're seeing 2 downward revisions and 2 upward revisions. So that basically tells me that Wall Street is pretty much split in terms of how, this AI revolution is going to affect this company's earnings. So that is definitely cause for some caution. It's important to be somewhat sober when we're looking at all these numbers and we're trying to make investments here. So it is important to note that Wall Street is not as bullish on this company as it is in C3 AI. Obviously, not too many analysts covering it, so maybe more analyst coverage will help that. But as it currently stands, and I have to evaluate, the metrics and information that I have, it seems as if Wall Street is not super bearish, is not super bullish on Sound like they are for C3 AI. As I said before, all they had was up revisions, no downward revisions. So, but let's look at Sound AI and try to predict some price movements here. So, great sign for momentum. Back on May 24th, we had the 50-day moving average cross above the 200-day moving average, which is basically just a sign of bullish momentum and is called a golden cross. This is probably the most watched daily moving average signal. So it's definitely a good sign for momentum. And as we can see, the stock has been outperforming the market since May. So it's an outperformer. Momentum looks great. Trades above all daily moving averages, and I don't see any major level of resistance besides up here at $4. Therefore, I believe the stock likely moves in sympathy with the general sector up to about $4. Obviously, we could get a bearish, earnings call today, and that could kind of change things. But as it stands right now, I think the stock is likely on the move to $4 over the next couple weeks. So that being said, I'll move over to Big Bear AI, ticker BBAI. So let's look at valuation. Obviously, factor grade, same thing, just compares the stock to peers. Valuation at C minus, better than the others that we just covered. Revisions at C, and growth in F. Not that is the worst out of the last two stocks, Sound AI and C3 that we just covered. But let's look into valuations. So as we look here, we can see the price to sales and EV to sales numbers are much lower than C3 AI and Sound AI. Excuse me, SoundHound AI. So the EV to sales number is 3, and I believe if I want to look back quick just to make sure, it was about 15 for Sound and about 15 for C3 AI. So that's definitely a good sign. That shows you that valuation for BBAI relative to the AI peers is very, very good. Very, very good. And it's almost tough to use this sector median because it's the sector is information technology. It's not AI. There isn't an AI sector yet. So when we look at BBAI relative to its peers, to its impromptu sector, it's even better than these numbers. So really, honestly, as I dive through these numbers, I think Big Bear AI looks very, very good in comparison to other new AI companies. Although C3 AI isn't new. But as we look at the growth metrics, we see a little bit, why the valuation is what it is. So the other companies we were just looking at were growing 20, 50% year over year. But here we're growing only 10% year over year. And that's below the sector median. So that's not good. That definitely, kind of plays into the lower valuations. So if you were looking for a value stock within this sector, it definitely makes sense to consider BBAI as the value play of the group, although, like I said, the growth metrics aren't very positive. But with that being said, I'll move into revisions. So revisions for the stock, obviously not a lot of analysts covering it, so it's, I won't spend too much time on it. But we did get 1 EPS up revision and 3 down revisions. So 1 to 3 when we look at up to down revisions. So it does seem like covering analysts are getting more and more bearish, although I don't want to overstate that. It's only 3 analysts bringing down their revenue expectations. But these trends are definitely worth taking a look at and being aware of. So with that being said, I'll give my short-term price prediction on the stock. So stock trades above the 200-day moving average, which is the most kind of important daily moving average. It's the longest term, obviously. So we're coming down to this 150-day moving average as well. We're trading above it right now, and it looks like we've tested this level over the past 2 days and have held. We also tested this level back in March and held. We tested the daily moving average, the 150-day moving average back in March and held. So what this tells me that this 150-day moving average combined with the 200-day moving average should lend some support to BBAI. So therefore, I believe BBAI likely moves higher off this level. Obviously, like I said, we get C3 AI's earnings report today, which could drastically change things. But as we look back in January, the stock has outperformed since January, which is the longest streak of outperformance out of any of the peers that we just covered. And yes, since C3AI basically the same time, but it's been outperforming the market more consistently than Sound AI. So with that being said, I do believe we likely move higher. The question is how high, and really, as a logical man doing TA would say, up to the next major resistance level. And if I can get this line to draw straight, gosh darn it, come on. It's basically at this level. Oh, goodness. All right, so at around 375 is where shares had topped out in January, where shares had topped out on March 6th, where shares had topped out April 17th and 18th. I believe we likely bounce off this 150-day moving average and move higher to about 375. And just to give you a gauge on, how much of a gain that would be, that is a 73% gain in shares that I see as a likely move over the next couple weeks. Obviously, the market has been dragging stocks lower, but it seems to be that AI is kind of trading on its own fundamentals and has been a bit disconnected from the market. So I don't see the market really pushing and pulling the stock around too much. But with that being said, I'll end the video there. If you like the video, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. If you would like to get my daily portfolio moves, my exits, my entries, you can join the Discord, which is linked below. Also, if you would like to receive my free daily newsletter, you can sign up at the Substack, which is linked in the description below. With that being said, good luck, everyone. Happy investing.